Hi, I'm Vinny.
I'm JJ. I'm Owen.
And I'm James Devlin.
And welcome back to the Play by Play podcast. We have a special guest, James Develin, here today. We're gonna ask him some questions about his NFL career.
What was it like before your first NFL game?
Well, first and foremost, thanks for having me on today, guys. I appreciate
Thank
it, man.
you.
It's cool what you guys are doing. My first NFL game, it was like a whirlwind. I mean, I remember it to this day. Sunday night game against the 49ers. That was my first legitimate game that wasn't a preseason game. Game was fast. We ended up losing. I had a holding call late in the fourth quarter against Navarro Bowman on a punt return and negated the punt return by Wes Welker. It was brutal. I didn't perform to my standard. I didn't play any offense. It was just special teams. But I just remember the speed of the game and that excitement coming out of the tunnel was like nothing I had ever felt before.
Yeah.
I came from a relatively small college, so I had never seen, 75, 80,000 people all in one place before, and man, it was wild.
Yeah, this sounds like a crazy experience going from like college to the NFL.
Yeah.
I could never imagine.
It was every bit of that, yeah.
Yeah. So, what was the mindset going into the locker room before the game, like in halftime, even?
Sure. You mean just any general
Yeah,
game?
just in general.
Yeah, so I was always a big hype guy. I like to get real fired up, listen to music, get stretched out, ready to go, warmed up, out on the field, back inside, and we had such a routine. I was very routine oriented when it came to game day. I had to be in a certain place at a certain time, and it was all calculated. I did it my entire career. I think a lot of people tend to do that just to kind of keep themselves in the right mind frame going into something that competitive. And I was every bit of that. I mean, I was, had to get all my gear on the same exact way and listen to the same songs, and like it was kind of a production, but
Like a pregame ritual kind
exactly. So it ended up working out, man. But it was very intense for sure.
Do you have any like funny and interesting stories that like you could share like between like players in the locker room and stuff?
Oh man, I got a ton. One in particular, I don't know. I mean, there was always a lot of games going on. We like, especially during training camp when the days were long and you were there just doing the same monotonous stuff over and over and over. We bring in cornhole, we bring in basketball nets, we do some fun things like that just to kind of pass the time. I can't think of like a particular moment right off the top of the head right now, but there was always, guys keeping it light. Certain individuals that were, that person on the team that was like kind of the class clown, if you will.
Like the funny guy.
Yeah. So like Jules was always chirping in the corner in his locker. He was a big time like S talker,
Yeah.
And then Gronk was always keeping it light, and Tom doing his thing. People ragged on Tom for Tom being the greatest player of all time, greatest quarterback to ever play. Guys got under his skin a lot, and it was really funny.
So, how many Super Bowl rings do you have? How many did you win?
I have 3. I saw your email. Sorry, I wasn't able to bring them in. I have them in a safe deposit box. But I got 3 rings. I got 1 AFC Championship ring for that year that we lost to the Birds in the Super Bowl. But man, they mean a lot to me. It was a hard road to get there, and each season individually was such a journey. And so I got 3 of those things.
How'd you feel during like the Super Bowl? Like, was it I know it was like much different between like regular season games and the Super Bowl, but like, how was it?
Yeah, so the first one I ever played at, I mean, the amount of like build up and the amount of pageantry involved in the Super Bowl is like no other game. Even AFC championships or divisional rounds or whatever, those games are intense because it's win or go home. And the Super Bowl is just this whole nother level. There's celebrities everywhere you look. just the energy in the stadium is so palpable. I mean, it was wild. I had to like consciously remind myself to keep it cool like
Yeah.
before the game, so I didn't, like just
Stress out and
yeah.
anything. Yeah.
But it was crazy. And then I was lucky enough to play in 4. So by the 4th one, I was like, kind of accustomed to it, and I knew what
It's
to.
kind of like a normal thing at that
Yeah,
point.
yeah. So I mean, it was, but still, even the 4th one is just. It was. I was lucky to be there and just blessed to have that opportunity.
Yeah.
What's your favorite playoff round besides the Super Bowl to play in?
Probably the championship round. I mean, we had some epic games. I mean, my favorite game I ever played in was the AFC Championship in Arrowhead at Kansas City. Our last Super Bowl run, because it was just, they probably packed that stadium with close to 90,000. And it just felt like everyone in the stadium was against us, and it was just our sideline. That cold game went into overtime. We ended up winning on the goal line run, and we were running the ball well, so I was playing a lot and making some nice blocks, and so it was that game was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it must have been a really fun game to experience.
Yeah. So how long have you lived in Brigantine for?
We bought our house in 2017. I've been coming down here. My wife and I grew up on the other side of Philly, and then she kind of introduced me to Brigantine when I started dating her in 2011. And then come down here, I rented a place for a while so I could be closer to her in the off seasons. And then we would come down, her parents live up on the golf course, and then we ended up buying a place down here in 2017.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So I know you own like Soulberry, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, man. Yeah, so, becoming a part of the community here, it's, I love everything about Brigantine. I love the island lifestyle, and especially this time of year when there's not as many people around. But it's a great little place to live, man. A great place to raise my kids. I got 4 kids in the school here, and it's great.
Yeah, sounds like a fun time. And what was it like going from like Philly to Brigantine? Like, was it a hard thing to like go into?
I think just kind of readjusting my pace of life a little bit. I was especially coming from the NFL and being so ingrained in my routine and everything. I kind of had to self-regulate myself down here and just reacclimate to the whole Brigantine lifestyle.
Yeah, sounds like a crazy transition. Going from Philly to Brigantine in such a short amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How do you feel about Bill Belichick parting ways with the Patriots? I know you played with him for a long time.
Yeah. So, I mean, I owe a lot to Bill. He was an incredible person in my life. Gave me the opportunity to play at the next level, and so I'm eternally grateful for him. I mean, he was an incredible football mind, and it'll be tough to replace him, but. I like what they're doing with Gerard. I played with Gerard Mayo, and then he was there the last season that I was on IR. So I got to witness him as a coach, and he's just a natural leader of men. He always was.
Yeah.
Early in his career, he was voted captain, and he just kind of has that way about him. Like if he walked in here right now, you'd be inspired, and that's his whole thing. He wants to develop individuals, not just the team, but individuals, and so. I think he's going to have a lot of success, but it's going to be weird to see Bill in a cutoff hoodie of the Falcons or.
Where do you think he's going to go? Like,
I don't know.
You don't know.
I don't know. It's got to be the right fit though. You can't just go in and
put him anywhere.
Yeah, because the owner and the GM relationship have to work, and he's always been the guy that, he was the GM in New England like damn near the entire time. So. It's going to be a reacclimation. I mean, we all go through it, so he's no different.
Have any suggestions about like facing adversity and all that?
Oh man, that was the story of my life. Was overcoming adversity, people not believing in me, and just kind of believing in myself. I think that self-belief was something that really I hung my hat on. Because going from high school to college and then college to the NFL, I mean, there was a lot of bumps in between. It was not, just I'm graduating from Brown, I'm getting drafted. I graduated from Brown, ended up moving back in with my parents, in Pottstown or Gilbertsville, Pennsylvania at that time. And then I got a Facebook message, went down and played arena football in Oklahoma City for 5 weeks, was getting paid in Taco Bell meal tickets. I mean, it was wild, right? And then I played in the UFL. So, yeah, the whole story is you just got to maintain belief in yourself. I mean, if you're trying to achieve greatness, there's going to be failures, there's going to be pitfalls, there's going to be setbacks, but you just have to be diligent in your routine and be committed to the thing. Because if you don't sacrifice, if you don't struggle, then it's probably not worth anything at the end of the day.
Well,
so you just gotta keep churning.
What was like your fallback plan? Like if you didn't make it to the NFL, if you, like football just stopped, what would you be doing?
Yeah. So at that time that I was digging and trying to make a career in football, I didn't really have much of a backup plan. I went to Brown. I got my degree in mechanical engineering, and that was kind of always something that I earned my degree, so I had it in my back pocket, but I wasn't doing much to try to and that's probably not what people want to hear, because, you got to be smart about the thing. But to me, I was just fully committed to trying to play professional football when I was young, and I had the opportunity to. And so, that all-in, mentality was also something that worked out for me.
What age did you start getting into football?
I started playing football when I was 7, and my dad was a Division III national champion at Widener University, so football was big in my family. Grew up huge Eagles fan in an era of Eagles football that was arguably the best. Right now it's pretty good, but I mean, it went to 4 straight NFC championships. It was pretty good football, so I was all into it. And just coming up, every fall was football, no matter what. When I was 7 till I was 31 and stopped playing, it was just football and nothing else.
Did you want to get drafted to the Eagles? What team did you want to get drafted to?
I mean, yeah, if I could pick, I'd want to go to the Eagles. But honestly, New England was the perfect place for me, because they have the mindset up there that it doesn't matter how you got here or what you did before you walk in these doors. It's all about what you do when you're here. And I needed somebody to believe in me like that, because prior to that, I was a practice squad guy in Cincinnati. Didn't get a lot of reps. I was playing in the UFL, playing in arena, a year prior. So, you look at that and you're like, how the hell is this guy going to make it? But they didn't care. I was there, and what I did while I was there was good enough to earn a spot on the field, and that's what I needed.
Now that you're retired, do you still root for the Patriots, or are you an Eagles fan now?
So I'm definitely always a Patriots fan, first and foremost. I do, however, because we're down in Philly territory, I do root for the Eagles. I watch them diligently, and like I mentioned before, they got a great squad right now, and I mean, obviously, this past weekend wasn't great for them, but they're a fun team to root for, man. They play the game, in my opinion, in a really, really respectable way. They got a lot of, senior leadership on that team, and so I definitely root for them a little bit now.
What do you think happened to the Eagles?
I don't know. I think they had a lot of injury defensively, and it was just tough. They had a lot of guys that were playing out of position, slot guys playing outside.
Yeah.
Cornerbacks, I'm talking about, and then outside guys playing in the slot when they had injury. I mean, their back end was just at certain points. Yeah. And then, they always had the strong guys up front, but you can only do so much when, guys are kind of running free. And then offensively, I don't know what the problem was. I don't know how to fix it, but, they just gotta get back to the drawing board. What happened is in the past at this point, and so we just got to look forward to the future.
So, what position did you originally want to play?
So I was in high school. I played middle linebacker and a little tight end. Middle linebacker was my thing. I thought I was Brian Urlacher. I wanted to be just that hard nose, run stuffer. But then, as I progressed through my career, I was adamant on playing middle linebacker. I went to college, and they were like, nope, you're a D end. You're not fast enough. You're not big enough, So it was kind of dictated to me what I played. And then I would have loved to have played on the defensive side of the ball in the NFL, but my skill set, my size and speed just didn't allow me to. So fullback, being a human battering ram, it just kind of worked out. I always loved the the physicality of the game. But if I could go back in time and do whatever I wanted, I would have played middle linebacker.
Yeah, speaking of go back in time, if you could go back in time, what would you tell yourself about the NFL, like that now that you know?
Well, I don't know if I'd tell myself anything, honestly, because I think part of the beauty of being young and admiring the NFL the way that I did, it allowed me to view it like, man, this is like some pinnacle thing. Once I got there and I realized, like, I'm sharing the locker room with Tom Brady for 8 years, and this is the greatest quarterback to ever live, but, he puts on his socks and his pants just like everybody else. He's a human being, he has flaws. I've seen these things. So it's, honestly, I wouldn't touch the way I looked at the NFL and professional football as a young kid, because I think it really like kind of blossomed this dream inside me. So I wouldn't change that.
Was Tom as competitive as he was like on the field as off the field?
Oh, absolutely. Probably the most competitive person I've ever been around. I mean, it didn't matter what it was, if it was, cornhole or, drinking beer or whatever. Man, this guy was, and he was a fantastic beer drinker. I don't know if you've ever seen clips of him, but he can put it down. He was competitive, and it showed on the field. Like, even when he was, and see, when I was an Eagles fan and they beat the Eagles in 2004, the Pats beat the Eagles. I didn't like Tom. I thought he was kind of whiny. I thought he'd yell at Wes Welker, and I'd be like, nah, you don't do that to your teammates. But once I got there and I realized the context behind that, I understood, and I was like, you know what, that's more proof to the pudding that why he's such a great player. And so, yeah, that competitiveness was what really established him as Tom Brady.
What was your favorite stadium to play in?
Gillette, I was most comfortable there. I think atmospherically, Arrowhead was really cool. Seattle was really cool.
Yeah, Seattle's loud.
And Pittsburgh has a lot of just like, you walk into that stadium and you just feel like the grit of the city. Like, you feel the city. And Buffalo was really fun. And that was a similar thing. Like, when you're there and you can kind of hear the chirping from the stands, and you're standing in the tunnel and guys are yelling stuff at you. You wanted to feel that, because that's what football is all about, in my opinion. Like, I wanted to feel the city, from the field. And so, yeah, Pittsburgh and Buffalo were two places that were just really fun. And Pittsburgh does that third quarter thing where they turn the lights off and they play Renegade by Styx. And that thing, man, it gave me goosebumps just thinking about it. It's wild.
What was the difference in environmentally between regular games and playoff games?
Just the stakes. Everybody knew that, like, every play mattered so much more. Once you got into the swing of things, like, you kind of got back into your routine. But yeah, man, it was just, especially late in the game, like a regular season, late in the game, like, the game's more or less like decided sometimes. But in a playoff game, it's like there's no letting up. There's no, all right, like, this didn't work. Like, you just got to throw the box at it, and, you're not saving anything at that point. So it's just fun. There's so much more like intensity and stakes involved.
Yeah, because it's like one and out. If
Yeah,
you lose, you're
exactly.
gone.
And why leave any trick plays or anything like on the table? If you're going down, you might as well go down on your shield, right? So like, you're pulling all kinds of stuff out and trying, double reverse passes and stuff like that. I mean, go look at our games against Baltimore, when we ended up coming back from 2 14-point deficits in the same game, and we're running double passes where Jules is throwing passes to Danny Amendola. We're running reverses. We have all these like unbalanced line sets where tight ends are eligible offensive linemen or eligible. It was wild, but we couldn't hold anything back and ended up winning the game and then winning the Super Bowl. So you
Good
can't.
way to
Yeah.
like go out and
Yeah,
with the trick
exactly.
plays and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Speaking of the double passes, in Philadelphia, I knew Jules got the toss and was supposed to throw it to the screen, but threw it to the end zone.
Yeah.
Like, what was? Do you know what he was like told after like he passed the ball to the end zone?
I mean, after he scored, I don't think they said much of anything. I think he definitely knew that he wasn't supposed to do what he did. But sometimes you just got to be a gamer.
You gotta
and
roll with
Jules,
it.
yeah, Jules was definitely a gamer, man. Like he took advantage of his opportunity, and coaches trust guys like that. Coaches trust the guys that have been through the ringer. They know the playbook in and out, and so they're going to run plays for him like that and give them the flexibility to do what they need to do. And so sometimes you just got to kind of tip your cap in those things, but say like, yeah, next time we do that, don't look to the end zone.
Yeah, give 'em
Do
a
what
little
you're
tip.
supposed to
Yeah.
do, because it might work this time, but it might also be a pick six next time. So
Yeah.
you never know.
Yeah.
You never know what's gonna happen. That's the game of football. Like things change a lot quickly.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so how did you feel after like a win or a loss after a Super Bowl?
Oh man, so the wins. I mean, you were on top of the world. The one sobering thing though, and this was something I look back on those Sunday nights. I mean, it was the parties were awesome. Hanging out with Rick Ross up on stage and stuff. Like you couldn't get me off the pedestal on that night. But that Monday morning is such a sobering feeling when you're just like, all right, well, it's all done, and now we got to turn the page to next year. And it was kind of the same thing when we lost. When we lost the Super Bowl to the Eagles, it was probably the lowest moment in my football career, because I knew, because the 2 wins we had in the Super Bowl, I knew what we were missing out on. And that was just brutal. And especially then to come home a week later and every street corner is selling Eagles championship merch. I couldn't get away from it. But I kind of just doubled down and said, you know what, like, I'm going to turn the page just like I did when we won, so that I can be prepared for next year. And that's, I think collectively we did that as a team. And then we went back to the Super Bowl the next year and won it. So there's always something more to work for. And that was the one lesson, whether it was a win or a loss at the Super Bowl, is the next day you got to turn the page and go to next year, or else you're going to be behind.
Yeah, like you're stuck in the past. You're stuck in the season before that.
Yeah,
How was
man.
it like transitioning into that?
Transitioning to the next year,
Yeah.
I always look forward to it. I thought it was, you work so hard and the season goes, one way or the other. You're either the Super Bowl champ or you're like every other 31 teams, and you're just, you're starting fresh. And Bill was always very cognizant of that. He was always, let us know, like, you got to turn the page. You got to go to next year. Nothing that you did last year is going to win you any games this year. So, I always look forward to it. I loved the training aspect of football. So I was a big weight room guy, and I always look forward to, like, not destroying my body every Sunday and being able to go, like, week after week, train, feel good, and get ready to go.
Yeah. Do you still keep in touch with the players, like, now that you're retired?
Yeah, I mean, I got a lot of guys that were. That's one thing you miss when you step away from the game, is like the locker room mentality, being, from me to you, so with some of your best friends, literally every day for 8 months, and then you're all of a sudden like you retire, and it's like you don't get any of that.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of guys that I still keep in contact with, monthly, if not weekly. Jules, Gronk, Danny Amendola. But then, they go off and they do their thing. They're in New York, they're in LA, they're down in Florida or whatever. And so, it's just kind of life. But yeah, there's guys that I'll always keep in contact with, that'll always be like my guys that I hit up when making a tough decision or whatever. Just because that's just the nature of the brotherhood aspect of football, and that was something that I always loved.
Yeah, so what do you think the hardest team you ever played was, like the best team you ever played against?
Oddly, I'd say it was always toughest to play teams in your division. And you might look back and be like, oh, the AFC East was terrible when you were there. But maybe that's just because we were so good, you know. But honestly, playing like the Jets and the Bills, this was before they got respect. And Miami, really. I mean, Miami, I'm leaving them out. But we had some absolute, like, heart-wrenching games down there. We'd always play them when it's, 10 degrees up in New England, and then we'd go down there in, like, January, and it's, like, 85.
Yeah.
And we're sweating our what's off.
Yeah.
But no, it was those divisional games because they knew you like the back of their hands. So there was really nothing new you could show them. And so, yeah, I'd say, like, Miami, Buffalo, and New York.
Yeah. How cold was it? Like, have you ever played in cold in Buffalo?
Yeah, we played in some cold games, man, like a couple cold ones up in New England, and we had that open end of our stadium, so the wind used to whip through there. And it really created, some advantageous situations when you're playing, teams that aren't used to it, whether it's a dome team or a warm weather team, and they come up there in January, February, or not February, but January, December, and it's, in the teens, and it's a night game, and the wind's whipping, and all of a sudden the wind chills at like negative something. I loved playing in that kind of conditions. I still to this day love the cold. I think my kids are starting to love the cold, which is cool. I mean, my son runs out on his diaper on our front porch, and it's like, just the last couple days, it was like 15 degrees, and that kid just doesn't feel it. So I think, going through that struggle and practice and stuff, it just acclimates you to be prepared for those situations.
Like, speaking of, like, domes and stuff, how was it playing, like, the difference playing on turf and a normal field?
I love grass, man. I think you'd be hard to find someone that prefers turf over grass. It's just the natural way the game's supposed to be played. I understand why there's turf. It was much more easy to maintain, and the game's a little bit faster. But I love grass. I wish all 32 teams would play on grass.
Yeah, it sucks that some of them have to play on, like, the domes and the turf. Yeah. You guys got any more questions?
No, that's it.
No. Yeah.
All right, so that's all we have for you today. Hope you guys like this. This is Play by Play Podcast signing off.